David Cameron was right when he said that kidnap ransoms, they go towards buying arms, they go towards funding terrorist activities, and they fundamentally push forward the terrorists' agenda. And that's exactly what we don't want to do. Not only that, if you become known as the country who pays ransoms, then no national from your country will ever be safe again.
So how do you go about securing the release of a hostage in a situation like this? We know that David Cameron has said that he's going to personally supervise all the efforts to do just that. So what kind of strategy can you have?
Well, he's going to look at all of his options. He's going to talk to his military and intelligence people and figure out if there's a way of learning the location of the hostage and of either rescuing him or somehow disrupting the terrorists' operations. He's going to look at the any kind of diplomatic avenues where there might be contacts with ISIL through a third party of some kind. But paying the ransom is normally the very wrong thing to do in this kind of case.
Well, we'll come on to the prospect of a possible rescue, but you talked about diplomatic channels. Is that possible? You have a great deal of experience of negotiating hostage releases. How likely are negotiations in a situation like this with a group like Islamic State?
Well, unfortunately, it's not likely, but you can't not do it just because it's unlikely. You're going to try every single thing that you can think of and more in order to secure the safe release of the hostage. However, because we're dealing with an unusual group in ISIL, they don't want money. They want some kind of political concessions that neither Mr. Obama or Mr. Cameron are willing or should make.
Well, no,
and they've got to look at the big picture.
Well, yes, and it's interesting then to work out what their motives are for these videos that they've been posting. I mean, in all honesty, they aren't going to believe that countries such as the US or the UK are going to change their fundamental strategy as a result of that video, are they? What are they trying to achieve?
Well, you're right, Anna. What they're trying to do is they're trying to scare people. They're trying to scare the population, the voters, into maybe forcing politicians into making a hasty or an ill-judged move that will then play into ISIL's hands. But at the end of the day, as your previous feature was saying, that ISIL are experts in manipulating the media and social media as well. They want to get their message out. And this is a terrific way of getting people to pay attention.
It attracts attention, certainly, but what role do you think it plays in succeeding to radicalise other potential people to their cause? I mean, given the brutality of the videos, does it really act as a recruitment tool?
Well, I think it's going to act as a recruitment tool to a certain fringe element of people who, for the most part, are fantasists and not really going to do anything in particular, but they find this kind of stuff somehow attractive and satisfying. And so, you know, that's simply what's going to, happen for any kind of macabre video like that. But the opposite is true as well. You have just as many, if not more, people who are repulsed by it and who are completely against it.
And we know that the security forces are doing their best to identify the person who is masked in the video, the apparent killer of the two American hostages so far, who has a British accent. If they were to identify that person, how significant a breakthrough would that be?
Unfortunately, I don't think it would be much very significant in a larger sense. Certainly, it'd be satisfying from the perspective of the UK public and perhaps from the Foleys and the Sotlov's families. But at the end of the day, the people who are chosen by ISIL to do the lower level jobs like guarding prisoners and hostages tend to be the British jihadists because they don't have the religious credentials or the military background that, say, Chechens might or other nationalities would.
And similarly, obviously, they're trying to trace the location as well. Is that more useful, potentially, in terms of planning a potential rescue?
Indeed, it might, yeah. If they could locate the place geographically, they can extrapolate from that in terms of, well, how long can you drive in a car, you know, in a radius of and the types of roads, and they can do a pretty good job of narrowing down in areas of square miles and square kilometers where they are. But if it's in a built-up area, if it's in an urban area, then it's going to be very difficult, because it's going to be next to impossible to find them in an urban area.
And you've got experience of kidnaps from around the world. How would you assess this compared to other cases that you've seen? How much more challenging is this hostage situation than others?
Well, cases like this, political or ideologically motivated cases like this, are more difficult and more risky to the hostage than, say, economic or kidnaps for ransom. And the reason for that is that kidnaps for ransom are simply done for the money. The kidnappers are doing it for the money. But ISIL, obviously, sure, they would like to have the millions that others have paid, but at the end of the day, they're also getting lots of free publicity. They're getting their political message out. It's working for them from a recruitment perspective. And so what they want is, and what their demands were in the earlier cases, was for the United States to stop bombing them. But they're smart enough to know that that's not going to happen, as you said. And so the point is that what they really want out of this is the publicity. The oxygen of publicity is what they want.
And how dangerous would you say that it was for people from Britain, from America, to go to this part of the world? What would your advice be to anyone considering that?
I would absolutely not go. Not for your own sake, but for the sake of your family, for the sake of your neighbors, for the sake of your friends. This is often worse on the families and the friends than it is on the individuals who are abducted. The families suffer the most. That's usually the case in this kind of situation.